The iconic flying kangaroo hit more turbulence today. Qantas shares dived to an all-time low after the airline warned profits would slump by 90% this year. The company's financial woes come in the midst of a protracted industrial dispute. Greg Hoy reports that Qantas's critics claim the figures released today are deliberately misleading.
In endless promotions, Qantas likes to boast it's the pride of the nation's airways.
I feel that because I'm wearing the Qantas uniform, I'm carrying 90 years of history and millions of miles of safe aviation on my shoulders, and I feel very, very proud.
Hello, I'm Alan Joyce, and I'm the CEO of Qantas. I am proud to be announcing our plans to build a stronger Qantas.
But such pride was dented, and the CEO nowhere to be seen today as the national carrier's share price nosedived on news that profits, which last year soared to around $550 million, would plummet by up to 91% to as low as $50 to $100 million this year. In the notable absence of Qantas management, it was left to aviation analysts to face the cameras.
It reflects the parlous state of their international operations, which we knew were in serious trouble, but the gravity of them it has sent a shockwave through the industry.
Blaming rising fuel prices and a deterioration in the global market driven by Europe's faltering economy. Qantas's announcement to the share market today suggested its international arm is expecting a fall in profit of some $450 million this financial year, more than double the fall of last year. But critics of the national carrier suggest that its accounts are opaque, the figures rubbery, concealing other problems.
Australian accounting standards are not robust in this area, and that we don't have to report at the levels you would see, for instance, in the United States about individual business units. The company can allocate its cost base and its revenue base in any manner it sees fit, and then it can report things like international loss of $450 million, but a group profit of somewhere between $50 and $100 million, and everyone, including the investors, has to take that at face value.
It's embarrassingly farcical to see Qantas rip the capital out of its Qantas operations and then load up Qantas International as the fall guy. We've actually seen a 36% increase in international passengers on Qantas international flights since 2007, and yet the company keeps squandering the capital it's created on these misadventures, unsuccessful adventures in Asia.
Certainly, it is impossible to separate the international division from the domestic division, as it is impossible to separate completely Jetstar from the group as well. There is certainly some crossover, but you don't need to be a rocket scientist to work out that flying a 747-400 today is going to cost you 20% more fuel than flying, say, a Boeing 777.
The point being, while its competitors have much more modern and fuel-efficient aircraft like the Boeing 777, Qantas's fleet of ageing 747s and 767s are fuel inefficient, while delivery has been delayed for 5 years for up to 100 replacement 787 Dreamliners, which use 25 to 30% less fuel but won't begin arriving until next year. But critics fear Qantas's bookkeeping might suggest an ulterior motive, after the company weeks ago announced it would split its international and domestic divisions and the management that runs them.
Because it has an intention of actually floating the Qantas Jetstar brands separately. It has a very clear strategy. It's been offloading profitable Qantas international routes, even though they've had a 36% increase in passengers. They've been offloading profitable international routes for Qantas, giving it to Jetstar to prop up an operation that has every hallmark of running in competition with Qantas down the track.
But both Qantas and aviation analysts dismiss such concern as an unfounded conspiracy theory and say Qantas has no option but to cut its costs.
Qantas International's almost in a perfect storm right now. They're facing increased competition from premium carriers, particularly in the Middle East, who have labour costs that are 20% lower than Qantas's.
And more advanced aircraft.
Oh, there's no doubt we've got some unique costs, one of which is that we're at the end of our route structure, whereas someone like Singapore Airlines is in the middle of their route network. So we have an inherent cost of flying from one end of the world to the other. And we do have a lot of people per aeroplane compared to some of our competitors, and that's simply a legacy of being a government-owned carrier many years ago.
Which helps explain Alan Joyce's description after being handed the role of Qantas CEO by predecessor Jeff Dixon, after having to announce a similar 87% profit dive 3 years ago.
You know, Jeff Dixon, he claimed that when he took over, he inherited, he thought, a shit sandwich at the time. And he says Alan probably thinks the same thing as he's taking over in this environment.
Do you?
No, I don't actually, because I do believe fundamentally that Qantas is an amazing brand, an amazing airline.
Some might question if the Qantas brand is so amazing these days, though all seem to agree that there remains considerable turbulence on the flight path ahead.
We've seen the workforce having its work and its conditions slashed that's made the airline so safe and such a iconic Australian brand throughout the world. And there's only one thing that's improved, not the shareholder value. That's gone down 15% in the last 24 hours. So over 75% in the last 5 years. The only thing that seems to be going up is the executive pays and the number of executives that they employ within the top echelon of the Qantas brand.
Greg Hoy reporting.